And we begin tonight with what some hospitals in the Northwest are calling unprecedented times. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. Right now, nearly every hospital bed in the Portland metro area is spoken for, just as the need for care continues to spike. Catherine Cook shows us how this summer COVID is far from the only factor driving demand.
Running out of space. In Oregon, the number of open hospital beds is declining. Health officials say rising COVID cases are one factor, but this summer there are many others. Staffing, for instance.
We know that many levels of staff have made decisions as a result of the COVID pandemic to cut back hours, to change professions, sometimes leave healthcare entirely.
Dr. Renee Edwards is Chief Medical Officer at OHSU.
Our hospital is completely full.
Like so many hospitals and healthcare providers, OHSU is actively recruiting nurses and other positions. At the same time, they're competing against the growing national demand for traveling nurses and contracted labor. It's a problem that's not just impacting hospitals, but long-term care facilities too. And therein lies another challenge. Some patients are using hospital beds they no longer need while waiting for a transfer to long-term care facilities.
When we can't move our patients from the hospital environments of care into those post-acute environments where patients need ongoing care, then it does create a backlog in the system.
Here's a look at the latest numbers from the Oregon Health Authority. First, non-intensive care unit beds. As of Monday, the state showed there were 58 available in the Portland metro area. That's just 3%. For ICU beds, 20 were available, or 6%. And dwindling hospital capacity is not just Oregon's problem. Multiple Washington hospitals say they too are over capacity and understaffed. That includes Harborview Medical Center in Seattle.
We have not been under this level of stress at any point during the pandemic. This is unprecedented at this point.
Unfortunately, we have returned to the same level, in some cases worse level, of both challenge and strain in our hospitals as we experienced during the periods of those specific surges related to those variants.
This comes as doctors contend with the BA5 and BA4 variants, which combined account for most new cases and are believed to resist both antibodies and vaccine protections.
When both states are at capacity, it creates an extreme situation for the Pacific Northwest.
Dr. Edwards points out emergency rooms are also extremely busy, especially during the summer. It's why hospitals region-wide are asking people to avoid using them except for true emergencies. Instead, they encourage visiting urgent care or your primary care physician whenever possible. And on that note, hospital officials say it's critical to stay on top of your preventive health care. Get regular checkups and don't ignore health concerns. They say many patients who delayed seeing a doctor during COVID now need more intense care as part of their hospitalization. David.
Important guidance and perspective. Thank you, Catherine. Well, let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, including a paddleboarder who drowned this afternoon in the Columbia River off Frenchman's Bar Park. Vancouver police say the 30-year-old man from Hillsborough had fallen off his board and was struggling to swim to shore. Vancouver Fire sent out rescue swimmers, but say the paddleboarder had been underwater for several minutes and they were not able to get to him in time. Divers later recovered his body. 4 apartments have been damaged after a fire broke out this afternoon in southeast Portland. At one point, 55 firefighters were battling the flames at the Hazelwood Manor Apartments. That's at Southeast 26th and Division. All the residents made it out. Crews also rescued a cat. You see it here from one of those apartments. It is doing okay, too. Officials say the fire spread to 2 floors plus an attic, and it appears it was sparked by a candle. Oregon State Police are asking you to keep an eye out for this man. His name is Jay Marsh, and he escaped this afternoon from an inmate work crew in Lynn County. Authorities say the 57-year-old opened the door of the Department of Corrections van and just ran away. The crew was just outside Lebanon at the intersection of Berry and Main Streets when Marsh made his escape around 3. Marsh was wearing blue jeans and a blue shirt and was serving time for unauthorized vehicle use. Anyone who spots him should call state police.
There was just lots of shooting, and Dennis said that he had been shot, and then By the time I got out of the car, he was on the ground.
You're listening to a woman describe the terrifying moments a person gunned down her partner in a case of road rage turned deadly. The altercation and the shooting came right in the middle of a scenic drive home as the couple were returning from the coast. Mike Benner has her story as police search for her partner's killer.
And I don't know if I fully come to terms with the idea that he's not coming home.
Brandy Goldsberry is in disbelief over the shooting death of her partner of nearly 2 decades, Dennis Anderson.
Everybody keeps saying road rage, but road rage is that you would think just someone yelling at each other and doing something instantaneously. They pulled over and they waited for us to pass and started following us. It feels like premeditated.
That's why Brandy is afraid to show her face on camera. She fears retaliation from the gunman who took Dennis's life. It happened last Wednesday night on Highway 18, just west of Grand Ronde. Brandy says she and Dennis were driving from the coast to Portland when the driver behind them got angry and passed them. Brandy thought that was the end of it until she spotted the car pulled over a few miles ahead. She says when she and Dennis passed, the car pulled out behind them.
They were driving up on the back of us really close, driving into oncoming traffic and trying to veer towards us, like trying to send us into the forest.
Brandy says she and Dennis were scared, and they decided to pull over and call 911.
Dennis pulled over and he stepped out of the vehicle and the car pulled up parallel to us and just started shooting. And I was in my seatbelt. I couldn't get out of my seat, fast enough, and there was just lots of shooting.
Not one bullet hit Brandy. Dennis, however, was shot and killed in what Brandy's calling a senseless act of violence.
They need to realize what they did and how they affected not only me and my family, but our community.
Detectives released 2 photos of the suspect vehicle. It's described as black with some sort of round emblem on the hood. Brandy's hoping somebody recognizes the car and calls police.
What happened, I don't want it to happen again. I feel like these people will do something like this again.
Detectives with the Oregon State Police are teaming up with detectives from the Polk County Major Crimes Team to track down the suspect vehicle. So if you know anything about this case, you should give them a call. In the meantime, a GoFundMe has been set up to help with all the expenses in the wake of Dennis's death. You can find a link to that fundraiser on our website, KGW.com. I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
Incredibly troubling there. A shooting at a house party in Vancouver this weekend killed 2 young adults. Now keep in mind, police say this was a college going away party with about 50 people there. A neighbor described hearing the gunshots.
They were like really fast, so it was like pop, 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 pop. Super, super sad and such a tragedy.
Now witnesses say the gunfire erupted around 1:20 Sunday morning in a housing complex on East 11th and Nob Hill Drive. 2 people were killed. Another 2 were seriously hurt. Investigators say they were all between 17 and 20 years old. Now today, the new Vancouver police chief called the shooting a loss for the entire community.
Our detectives have been working round the clock. If you know people that were there at that party, or if you yourself were there at that party, and you have some information, please give the Vancouver Police a call.
And police tell us no arrests have been made yet. A trial is now underway for 3 people accused of turning this brawl into a riot, the melee outside a Northeast Portland pub back in May 2019. The defendants, Joey Gibson, Mackenzie Lewis, and Russell Schultz, are affiliated with the group Patriot Prayer. That's a right-wing group based out of Vancouver. They encountered Antifa members outside Cider Riot. That's the name of the pub. And during opening statements today, both the prosecution and defense showed the jury some video recorded during that brawl. Gibson's defense lawyer told the jury his client did not act out violently and instead could be heard telling people to put their weapons away. Here's part of one of those videos.
Do something. Do something. Oh, they took the bait. Oh, no. Hey, stop. If they want to fight, we won't get involved. Don't hit him with that, okay? Don't hit him with that, okay? No one jump in.
Court also heard today from a woman who was injured in that fight. The trial should last the week. Updates as we get them here on TV and at KGW.com. Well, a special ceremony at the Willamette National Cemetery. A 102-year-old veteran was laid to rest today with full military honors. Francisco Villavicencio was born on June 20th, 1920 in El Salvador. He'd been a longtime resident of Gresham. Patriot Guard riders escorted his body to the service while a bagpiper played. That memorial followed by a 21-gun salute. Now, Francisco is survived by his wife, children, 14 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren, and we thank him and his family for their service.